मीडिया वेव्स टीवी तो खबरां दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम च आप सबका स्वागत है।
Khabran Da Lekha Jikha September 20, 2024 has been sponsored by Hanif Litigation. Any criminal or regulatory law matters, contact lawyer Shahid Hanif at Hanif Litigation 604-626-3144. Dueling protest plan for Vancouver as anti-SOGI and trans right groups gather. It will be morning of protest in Vancouver with a rally and counter-rally planned at City Hall and the Vancouver Art Gallery. Anti-SOGI and trans right groups plan to be on the street starting at 8 a.m. The anti-SOGI march is part coordinated protest across the country this morning by a group calling itself Hands Off Our Kids, which is also promoting a petition asking federal leaders to safeguard children against teachings about sexual orientation and gender identity in the classroom, seeing them as a political agenda and inappropriate content, infringing upon parental rights. SOGI is part of BC's curriculum, meant to make schools safer and more inclusive, as well as to ensure no student faces discrimination based on their identity. As the march starts at Vancouver City Hall, a counter-protest is also set to begin at the Vancouver Art Gallery, organized by trans rights and two LGBTQ+ groups. It's being billed as a party against hate, with organizers saying the anti-SOGI march will only further increase prejudice and hate, adding that anti-trans sentiments are taking up more and more space in public discourse. Events are planned at the art gallery throughout the day, with the rally scheduled to join with a global climate strike protest at about 3 p.m.
ਅੱਜ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਵੱਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੁਜ਼ਾਹਰੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਪਹਿਲਾ ਮੁਜ਼ਾਹਰਾ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਸਿਟੀ ਹਾਲ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਸੋਜੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਤੇ ਉਸਦੇ ਸਮਰਥਕਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ এনवायरमेंट ਹੋਵੇ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲਿੰਗ ਆ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਤਬਦੀਲ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਖਿਲਾਫਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋਜੀ ਦੇ ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ, ਸੋਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਦਾ, ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਣ ਦੀ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਚਾਹਨਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ LGBTQ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਆਰਟ ਗੈਲਰੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੁਜ਼ਾਹਰਾ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਆ ਘੱਟ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਹਿੰਸਕ ਤੇ ਨਫ਼ਰਤ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਰਤਾਵਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਵਾਧੇ ਕਰਨਗੇ।
Canada's soccer waiting on drone spying review findings, priest man still getting paid. Nearly 2 months after announcing an independent external review into the Paris Olympics drone spying scandal, Canada Soccer, like everyone else, is waiting on its findings. Canada women's coach Bev Pritzman, assistant coach Jasmine Mander, and analyst Joseph Lombardi are serving 1-year FIFA suspensions in the wake of New Zealand's Olympic Committee filing a complaint with the International Olympic Committee's Integrity Unit alleging drones were flown over a pair of pre-tournament practice seasons. Mander and Lombardi were sent home immediately. Priestman initially removed herself from coaching the opening match but left the team on allegations of a wider culture of spying. FIFA subsequently banned all three from taking part in any football-related activity for a period of 1 year. Canada Soccer announced plans for the independent probe on July 24th, saying it would address the circumstances of the current matter and more broadly will seek to understand the historical culture of competitive ethics within all of our programs. The outcome of this review will be shared publicly and corrective actions, if necessary, will be taken, it added. More than 8 weeks later, Canada Soccer is still waiting for information to share. Priestman, while suspended, continues to get paid. Bev Priestman remains a paid staff member of Canada Soccer pending the conclusions of the review, Canada Soccer said in a statement to the Canadian press. On July 31st, Canada Soccer announced it had retained Sonia Regenbogen from the law firm of Matthews, Dinsdale and Clark to handle the review, a focus on actions taken by Canada Soccer representatives related to the incident at the Olympic Games and subsequently any related matters of a historic nature. It called Rogan Bogan, a leading Canadian expert in conducting independent workplace investigations. We will maintain prompt and transparent communication on this matter, Canada Soccer said at the time. As for the status update on the review, Canada Soccer offered little. We appreciate that there is interest in how the investigation is progressing, and we too look forward to its conclusions and recommendations. Given that this is an independent external investigation, we are not in control of its timelines. However, it said it remains committed to Regan Bogan's review. The probe could shed light on past incidents of cheating. A ruling by the FIFA Appeals Committee put former Canada coach John Hadman at the ground zero within the Canada Soccer for spying on rival teams. The July ruling, which dismissed a Canadian appeal of FIFA's sanctions imposed on the women's team, says Canada Soccer pointed the finger at Herdman. Canada is investigating the history of this matter, but we suspect that the practice of using a drone stems back to John Hadman when he was the head coach of the women's national team. In other words, this was a practice started by one person, John Hadman, and continued by Bev Pressman, Canada Soccer said, according to the FIFA document. Hadman, who has said he will cooperate with the review, has declined to publicly address such allegations, citing the integrity of the investigation. But he has repeated that his record was clean at the Olympics and World Cups. I can again clarify that a FIFA World Cup pinnacle event, Olympic Games at a Youth World Cup, those activities have not been undertaken, he said in July, and I've got nothing else to say on that matter. Herdman, now head coach of Toronto FC, led the Canadian women to 2 Olympic medals, winning bronze in 2012 and 2016, as well as 2011 and 2015 Women's World Cup. He also took the Canadian man to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Toronto GM Jason Hernandez offered little this week when asked about the spying investigation, saying he was reserving feelings, thoughts, or determinations until the determinations are made and it all comes out. Former Canada captain Atiba Hutchinson was also reluctant to comment on the issue, but he suggests such spying probably happens all over the soccer world. We've seen a lot of that have been happened over the years in my days playing with people watching and spying on us. Hutchinson, who played for clubs in Sweden, Denmark, and Netherlands and Turkey and won a record of 104 caps for Canada, said in an interview. I think countries, clubs, they find ways of trying to get a little bit of an advantage in certain things, he added. The 6th-ranked Canadian women returned to action October 25th against 3rd-ranked Spain at Estadio Francisco de la Hera in Almendralejo. Canada Soccer has yet to announce who will coach the team. Assistant Andy Spence ran the team at the Olympics in Pressman's absence. Canada managed to reach the Olympic knockout round despite being docked 6 points for the spying scandal, which also saw Canada Soccer fined 200,000 Swiss, which is $319,655. The Canadians were eliminated in the quarterfinals by number 4 Germany in a penalty shootout.
ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਸਮਾਂ ਬੀਤ ਗਿਆ, ਓਲੰਪਿਕਸ ਪੈਰਿਸ ਓਲੰਪਿਕਸ ਵੇਖੇ ਸੌਕਰ ਦੀ ਟੀਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਕੋਚ ਤੇ ਸਹਿ ਕੋਚ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਟੀਮ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਪਾਈਂਗ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਡਰੋਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਪਾਈਂਗ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਯਕਦਮ ਹੀ ਕੋਚ ਤੇ ਹੈੱਡ ਕੋਚ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਰੁਖਸਤ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ। ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਖੁਲਾਸਾ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਇਆ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਸੌਕਰ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤਨਖਾਹਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਪੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮਸਲਾ ਫਿਰ ਭਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਕੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਡਰੋਨਸ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਟੀਮ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਪਾਈ ਕਰਨਾ, ਭਾਵ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਨਿਗਾਹਖੋਰੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਔਰ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਫਾਇਦੇ ਦੀ ਮਨਸ਼ਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸਪਾਈ ਕਰਨਾ, ਕੀ ਇਹ ਸਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ। ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਕਹਾਣੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਸ ਕੋਚ ਦੇ ਵਕਤ ਤੱਕ ਗਈਆਂ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 2011 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 2022 ਤੱਕ ਵਿਮਨ ਤੇ ਮੈਨ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਟੀਮਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬੜੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਤਗਮੇ ਜਿੱਤੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਜਿੱਤਾਂ ਹਾਸਲ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਔਰ ਪਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਬਿਹਤਰੀਨ ਜਾਂ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਸਾਬਕਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਖਿਡਾਰੀ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਚ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਆ ਬਿਆਨ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਗੁਰੇਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤਫਤੀਸ਼ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਮਾਂ ਨਿਰਧਾਰਿਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਰਿਜ਼ਲਟਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਣਗੇ।
BC election campaign starts Saturday, but EB takes buzz on test run, rested at UBCM. A day before the official start, British Columbia's election campaign sees BC Conservative leader John Rusted and Green Party leader Sonia Fresno speaking to municipal leaders, while NDP leader David Eby is gearing up to get his campaign buzz rolling. Eby spoke to local politicians yesterday at the Union of BC Municipalities Convention as they presented a laundry list of concerns for the provincial government at the meeting, from homelessness to overdose crisis and more support funding. Eby's speech to the municipal leaders focused on his recent announcement to implement plans to introduce involuntary care of people struggling with mental health and addiction issues. He says several city governments have already indicated they are on board with having a secure site to house and treat severely mentally ill and drug-addicted people. The decriminalization of possession of small quantities of hard drugs and open drug use in public area is expected to be a major issue in the October 19th election, which officially starts Saturday. Rusted, who has been highly critical of safe supply and decriminalization initiatives, says he supports involuntary care, including for children. Of the three party leaders, only Fresno has run in the provincial election for the Premier's job. Eby took over the job from former Premier John Horgan almost 2 years ago, while Rusted was acclaimed as the leader of the BC Conservatives last year.
ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪੈਲਿਟੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਅੱਜ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਤੇ ਗ੍ਰੀਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਸੋਨੀਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਮੁਖਾਤਬ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕੱਲ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਐਬੀ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਸਰਨ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਰੱਖੇ, ਔਰ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪੈਲਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਉਹ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਮਤਲਕ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕੱਲ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅੱਜ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਬੱਸ ਆ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਚਾਲੇ ਪਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਾਹ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ 19 ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੇ ਸ਼ਰੇਆਮ ਨਸ਼ੀਲੇ ਪਦਾਰਥਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਸਲੇ ਨੇ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਬਣ ਰਿਹਾ। ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਤਿੰਨੇ ਲੀਡਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਗ੍ਰੀਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਸੋਨੀਆ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਤਜਰਬਾ ਹੈ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਦੇ ਅਹੁਦੇ ਲਈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੜਨ ਦਾ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਐਬੀ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੜੀ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਔਰ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਹ ਰੁਤਬਾ ਅਡੋਪਟ ਕੀਤਾ, ਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਬਤੌਰ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲੀਡਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ।
Victims, including 3 Canadians, claim former Harrods boss Al Fayed was a monster who abused young women, lawyers says. Lawyers in Britain representing dozens of alleged victims, including 3 Canadians, of Mohammed Al Fayed, the former boss of Harrods, said Friday their clients assert that he was a monster who raped and sexually abused young women. Lawyer Bruce Drummond said 3 of Al Fayed's alleged victims were from Canada, including one who was seriously assaulted when she was 16. At a press briefing in London on Friday in the wake of the BBC documentary Al Fayed, Predator at Harrods, the lawyers said the abuse went on through much of Al Fayed's 25-year tenure from 1985 on at the helm of the world-renowned London department store. The 4-member legal team told reporters they have been retained by 37 of Al Fayed's accusers and were in the process of adding more clients, including potentially from other organizations involving Al Fayed, the Egypt-born businessman who died last year at the age of 94. In the documentary, which was broadcast on Thursday, Al Fayed was accused of raping at least 5 women at his properties in London and Paris and of committing scores of other acts of assault and physical violence, both in and outside of Harrods. We will say it plainly, Mohammed Al Fayed was a monster, said lead lawyer Dean Armstrong. But he was monster enabled by a system that pervaded Harrods. Armstrong said the case combined some of the most horrific elements of cases such as those involving Jimmy Savile, Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein, well-known and powerful men who were able to avoid sexual abuse allegations for years before their victims finally came forward. Savile, a famous UK television personality who had received a knighthood, was accused of sexual abuse by hundreds of witnesses and victims after he died in 2011. Epstein, a jet-setting financier who killed himself in 2019, sexually abused children hundreds of times over more than a decade. And Winston, the once powerful Hollywood studio mogul, was convicted of rape and sexual assault in 2020 and rape in 2022. His 2020 conviction was overturned and he's awaiting a new trial. Some of Al Fayed's accusers were teenagers at the time of the abuse, with at least one as young as 15, according to the BBC documentary. London's Metropolitan Police have said they were made aware of allegations in the past and had questioned Al Fayed in 2008 in connection with the sexual abuse of a 15-year-old, but prosecutors at that time did not take the cases forward. There was also no comment from Al Fayed's family. One of Al Fayed's alleged victims spoke at the news conference. She was identified only as Natasha and had the billionaire businessman was highly manipulative and preyed on the most vulnerable, those of us who needed to pay the rent and some of us who didn't have parents to protect them. Natasha, who said she joined Al Fayed's team of personal assistants at the age of 19, recounted being invited to his private apartment one night on the pretext of the job review. When she arrived, she said she saw the bedroom door partially open with sex toys in view. I felt petrified. I perched myself at the very end of the sofa, and then Mohammed Al Fayed, my boss, the person I worked for, pushed himself onto me, she said. After kicking herself free, she said Al Fayed threatened her. He laughed at me, she said. He then composed himself and he told me in no certain terms that I was never to breathe a word of this to anyone, and that if I did, I would never work in London again, and he knew where my family lived. I felt scared and sick, and she added. In the United Kingdom, victims often identified themselves by only one name to protect their privacy. It wasn't clear why Natasha gave only one name while appearing before cameras, or if that was her real first name. The Associated Press did not identify victims of sexually assault unless they had come forward and voluntarily identified themselves. The team of lawyers could not immediately be reached for a comment. Al Fayed moved to Britain in the 1960s after early investments in shipping in Italy and the Middle East and started building an empire. At the height of his wealth, he owned the Ritz Hotel in Paris and the Southwest London soccer team Fulham. He moved in his high circles in London but was never knighted. He became a prominent conspiracy theorist after the Paris crash that killed his son Dodi and Princess Diana in 1997. Al Fayed sold Harrods in 2010 to a company owned by the state of Qatar via its sovereign wealth fund, the Qatar Investment Authority. In a statement to the BBC, the Harrods owner said they were utterly appalled by the allegations of abuse, but added that they were only made aware of them last year. While we cannot undo the past, we have been determined to do the right things as an organization driven by the values we hold today, while ensuring that such behavior can never be repeated in the future, the owners said in a statement. Armstrong dismissed Harrods' claim that the owners knew nothing of the sexual allegations made against Al Fayed for over many years, citing several media reports in recent years over allegations of sexual misconduct on the part of Al Fayed. The BBC documentary said at least one alleged victim had signed a non-disclosure agreement. We are here to say publicly and to the world, or to Harrods in front of the world, that it is time that they took responsibility. Armstrong said that is something they should do as soon as possible. U.S. lawyer Gloria Allred, who has represented victims in some of the most notorious sexual abuse cases in recent years, including those about abuse by Epstein, Winston, and Bill Cosby, also spoke and lambasted the culture of Harrods during Al Fayed's tenure. Harrods is often referred to as the most beautiful store in the world. Many women dreamt of working there, she said. However, underneath the Harrods glitz and glamour was a toxic, unsafe, and abusive environment.
ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਰਾਜਸੀ ਹਲਕਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇ ਆਸ-ਪਾਸ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਅਮੀਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਸੈਕਸ਼ੂਅਲ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀ ਥਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅੰਡਰ ਏਜ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੀ ਬਦਫੈਲੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਰੀਰਕ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਈਆਂ ਨੇ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁਣ 3 ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਹਰਬਲ ਸਟੋਰ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦਾਰਸ਼ਨਿਕ ਸਟੋਰ ਦੇ ਮਾਲਕ ਜਿਸ ਦੀ ਕਿ ਮੌਤ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹ ਦੋਸ਼ ਲੱਗੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਟੋਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਦਫੈਲੀ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਬਣਾਉਂਦਾ ਸੀ, ਸਰੀਰਕ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀ। ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਹਾਣੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਹਾਲੀਵੁੱਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁੰਦਰ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਲਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮਕਾਰ ਦੇਣ ਦੇ ਖੇਤਰ ਦੀ ਮਹਾਰਤ ਰੱਖਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਇਸ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਲਚਰ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਤਸਾਹਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਖਰ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ 3 ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੇਸ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ।
Statistics Canada reports retail sales up 0.9% at $66.4 billion in July. Statistics Canada says retail sales rose 0.9% to $66.4 billion in July, helped by a stronger new car sales. The agency says sales were higher in 7 of the 9 subsectors it tracks, with sales at motor vehicle and parts dealers up 2.2%, boosted by a 2.3% increase in sales at new car dealers. Sale at gasoline stations and fuel vendors fell 0.6% for the month, as sales for the subsector in volume terms fell 1.7%. Core retail sales, which exclude gasoline stations and fuel vendors and motor vehicle and part dealers, rose 0.6% in July. In volume terms, Statistics Canada says retail sales increased 1.0% in July. Looking forward, the agency says its preliminary estimate for retail sales in August pointed to a gain of 0.5% for the month. Thought it cautioned the figure will be revised.
ਸਟੈਟਿਸਟਿਕ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨੇ ਅੰਕੜੇ ਨਸ਼ਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ 0.09% ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸੇਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਬਿਲੀਅਨਸ ਆਫ ਡਾਲਰ 66.4 ਬਿਲੀਅਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਜ ਹੋਇਆ। ਔਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖਰੀਦੋ ਫਰੋਖਤ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਐਕਟੀਵਿਟੀ ਆਈ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਾਂ ਪੱਖੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਗੈਸਲੀਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖਰੀਦੋ ਫਰੋਖਤ ਆ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਅੰਕੜੇ ਸਟੈਟਿਸਟਿਕ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਨਸ਼ਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਨੇ।
Port Coquitlam parent calls out unsafe high school washrooms. A Port Coquitlam parent is calling for safety to be addressed after survey suggested majority of Terry Fox secondary students don't feel comfortable using the washroom at school. The survey was conducted by the school student voice committee, claiming 75% of students feel unsafe using the washroom. The parent, who wished to be referred as Sarah for anonymity, tells she thinks the district and the province should be aware of this problem. 75% is ridiculous. Being one of the largest school districts in the province, they should be able to utilize and access emergency funding for additional staff immediately, said Sarah. She says now the most students and staff are aware of the statistic, they should be alarmed. I know the bathrooms have been rumored to be bad, but when I saw that a survey has been conducted, the results are in. In a statement, Terry Fox Secondary School said that students are primarily concerned about vaping in the washrooms. Unsafe was perhaps too strong a word we discovered when we talked to individual students, but that was a word we used on the survey, so we can live with it, school officials said. The school stresses that in more recent survey, it found only 41% of students feel uncomfortable using the washroom. The school claims it has addressed the issue of vaping in bathrooms. Our student voice committee was very instrumental in bringing attention to this, even to the point of making a video we share with the students, and with students' voice involvement, we created a QR code system, the statement said. Students scan a code if they see something they aren't happy about it. It's not just vaping that they report. By the way, they use the code to let us know about other more mundane concerns in the bathroom, like dispensers out of soap, toilets not working properly, or lack of toilet paper. The code sends an email to the admin. It is anonymous, so we don't know who sent them in. But Sarah says physical safety is a real concern. She says her son was threatened in the washroom this year. I asked them what he did and if he scanned the app, and he said, no, I haven't myself. And I'm like, great. So now every time he's going to the bathroom, there's going to be issues. Terry Fox Secondary claims it's a data-driven and is working to reduce the 41% number as well. We are proud of our students for taking a leadership role, and for the sense of shared responsibility. We all have to make the school as safe, caring, and welcoming as possible.
ਕੋਟਕੁਟਲਮ ਦੇ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੇ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਹਾਰ ਹੈ, ਵਾਤਾਵਰਨ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਇਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 75% ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਅਨਸੇਫ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਕੰਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਬਲਕਿ ਤਹਿਲਕਾ ਵੀ ਮਚਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ ਸਕੂਲ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ 41% ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ। ਕਾਰਨ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਤੇ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮ ਦੇ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੀਪਿੰਗ ਵਾਲਾ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਨ, ਤੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਤਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੜਾਈ ਝਗੜੇ ਡਰਾਉਣਾ ਧਮਕਾਉਣਾ ਵਰਗੀਆਂ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੱਦੇ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਹਾਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੇ ਵਾਸ਼ਰੂਮ ਦਾ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਨ ਅਨਸੇਫ ਹੈ। ਔਰ 75% ਨੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸਰਵੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ कि अपने आप ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ चिंताजनक है।
इसी के साथ हमें दीजिएगा इजाजत। खबरां दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम से until next time, goodbye and be safe।